of a good friend turned enemy.
So, I mean, that is the land of unconfirmed visits.
Yes, we came, we saw, he died.
It didn't have anything to do with your visit.
No, oh, I'm sure it did.
I am very pleased to welcome Minister Gaddafi here to the State Department. We deeply value the relationship between the United States and Libya. We have many opportunities to deepen and broaden our cooperation, and I'm very much looking forward to building on this relationship. So, Mr. Minister, welcome so much here. Thank you. We're delighted you're here.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Today, I will give you the reason why the West is fighting Gaddafi. I'll tell you exactly what is really going on in Libya. I will tell you what the mainstream media will not tell you. There are 3 reasons why Gaddafi has to die. And among those 3 reasons, none of them have to do with him killing his own people. Number 1, Gaddafi is the one who gave the opportunity for an African satellite for communication. It is in 1992 that 45 countries in Africa decided that they want to have their own satellite. This will cover internet, telephone communication, and all other communications. But the problem was how to find the money for this project. Where did they get the money from? They decided to go to the IMF. But the IMF knew that sponsoring this would be more dangerous for Western countries. Why? Because Western countries were making $500 million per year for all telecommunication in Africa, even inside Africa. $500 million per year. Not includes interest. That's how much they were making. So it is in 2007 that Gaddafi will come up with most of the money for this project. Africa will now have its first communication satellite, which will give the opportunity to countries like South Africa, Nigeria, Algeria, Angola, Libya, and other countries to now have their own telecommunication satellites. They will now provide communication to their own people. It will only cost African countries $400 million, only a one payment of $400 million to make this happen. Now you imagine how much money was Europe lost because of this? $500 million per year that Gaddafi made them lose by sponsoring this satellite. Just Gaddafi himself comes up with $300 million, and other countries can impeach him. So this is reason number 1.
That's 1.
Why is Gaddafi dead? 2, Gaddafi and African countries decide to create 3 major banks in Africa. 1, the AMF, African Monetary Fund. The African Monetary Fund will headquarter in Cameroon, Yaoundé. This was to be created in 2011, this year. With the African Monetary Fund, African countries will no longer need to go to the IMF, which is the International Monetary Fund. So just imagine yourself how much money Europe will lose if the AMF is created. When Western countries found out that this is what was happening, they actually wanted to be part of it. I believe it is in 2006 in Yaoundé, Cameroon, that African countries decided that no other countries outside of Africa will be part of the AMF. Now you can imagine what's going on here. Not only that they try to cut them money, but on top of that, they don't even want them to be part of this. Because being part of this will mean that they will have to control what is going on. The second bank will be the Central African Bank. The Central African Bank will be headquartered in Abuja in Nigeria. What this bank will do, it will stop African countries from using Western currency. Like if you go to Africa today, the countries like Cameroon, Cote d'Ivoire, Gabon, and many other French-speaking countries are using the franc CFA. With this bank, we will have our own currency, like the Naira in Nigeria. Gaddafi, once again, came up with most of the money for this project. And the third bank that was supposed to be created was going to headquarters in Libya, the Bank of Investment. This bank will control most of the investment in Africa. The Central Bank of Investment. Now you imagine yourself what's going on here. Gaddafi is trying to break Western economy by doing this. But that's not his intention. His intention is to free Africa from this trap. African people want to be independent. Western countries don't want that. And that's what's going on here. So the money that Obama confiscated, stole from Gaddafi is the money that was going to help for all those projects. He's telling you today that Gaddafi is trying to kill his own people with that money. No, Mr. President, you know that that's not true. He probably doesn't even know because he has no experience. He has no experience. He doesn't even know what's going on. He's like a puppy. They tell him what to do. But well, let me inform you, Mr. President, that money was going to sponsor all those projects. That money that you confiscated from Libya. The third reason why Gaddafi has to die has to do with the United States of Africa. This man has been pushing African countries to unite, just like the United States of America. The very first thing that European countries, when they were colonizing African countries, did was to divide African people. When you want to break a powerful home, you have to find a way to turn that family against each other. That's the very first thing Western countries did to keep us from being powerful. The second thing they did was to stop education. Make sure that African people are not educated. Education is the key to success. By us being educated and educating our own people, we are stopping major problems in Africa. And the third thing they did was to place dictators in power in Africa who will give them everything they want. And every time that the population will stand up, these dictators will have the support of European countries to kill those protesters. They were all surprised with what happened in Tunisia, in Egypt, and they took the opportunity to then create a problem in Libya. Not one of you will show me footage of the same uprising that we saw in Egypt, in Tunisia, in Libya. Not one of you will show me that type of footage. This was created by Western countries. When you go to Libya, you get free education. I'm talking about college education. Free health care. When you're newlywed and you don't get to have a job, you get free apartments. Libya is a beautiful country.
Tell them.
And today they're telling us that Gaddafi is killing his own people. But yet he's the same one who's giving them everything. Free education, free health care, feeding his own people, and killing them again. Does that make sense to you? Let me tell you what the countries that are bombing Libya today have in common. They are broke. Oh yes, they are broke. Just in the United States alone is borrowing money from China.
Tell them.
Europe is going down with the euro. Every one of those countries in NATO are broke. And Gaddafi is making it worse by giving African people independence. And that's why you see Hillary Clinton going to Africa and telling African people to reject Gaddafi. Don't deal with Gaddafi. In fact, they've requested that the rebels open an embassy in Washington, D.C., making an illegal movement legal. That's what the Obama administration is doing. Hillary Clinton is also asking African people not to deal with China. Tell me, let me just ask this. What can China do to African countries that Western countries haven't done yet? I like to know myself. How worse can it be? As far as I'm concerned, China is not the one going around bombing other countries. I can't remember the last war China has been in. China is not the one killing African people today with drones. China is not the one fighting in Iraq or Afghanistan in the name of democracy. China is making money. Why not deal with China? What have you done to African people that is good? What have you given African people that is good? When you are going somewhere in Africa, in different African countries, and asking African people not to deal with China, what are we receiving in exchange of that? Other than bombs, drones, and everything else. What are we receiving? China is the #1 investor in Africa. The African satellite that I'm talking about today was put together by Chinese and Russians. We African people will survive. We survive your drones and your bombing, your insults, and everything else, your humiliation. We survived that. China is not going to do anything to us that you haven't done yet. So, Mr. President, let me tell you this. If you're not ashamed, I'm ashamed for you. I'm embarrassed for you. The first African-American president. And this is what you're doing to your own country, to the world, to the people of your race. You are the nightmare of Martin Luther King. He's always talked about his dream. But his nightmare was to see an African president of the United States of America doing what you are doing today, misrepresenting the black race. We're not asking you to give your attention only on African people or only on black people, but to show a good example of what leading is, of what fairness is, of what democracy is really about. The things that Martin Luther King died for. Not just for the liberation of African people, but for fair treatment of everybody. Black and white equal.
Tell them.
Fighting together. Sharing. This is an embarrassment. And this is a shame. And I hope you stay one-term president.
وثبت ان ما فيه ديمقراطيه هناك، بل هناك دكتاتوريه لا تختلف ابدا عن دكتاتوريه هتلر او نابليون او موسوليني او جنكيز خان او اسكندر الى اخر.
All those people that want to support him. He's killing his own people.
هكذا في عهد ريغن المجنون يقال بأمر رئاسي، أصدر الرئيس الأمريكي ريغن أمر رئاسي بالحرب عجبة.
Not supporting no man that want to kill me.
في محاصرة ليبيا، أمر رئاسي في مقاطعة ليبيا، أمر رئاسي بحالة كذا كذا. هل هذه ليست دكتاتورية؟ هذه ديمقراطية؟ الآن انتخابات أمريكية طلع مواطن أسود أصله من كينيا افريقي ومسلم وكان يدرس في مدرسة إسلامية في إندونيسيا اسمه أوباما، والناس كلهم صفقوا لهذه الشخصية في الوطن العربي وفي العالم الإسلامي في افريقيا، واستبشروا بخير وصفقوا له وصمموا من اجله ودعوا له بالنجاح، وربما يكونوا قد دخلوا حتى في حملات التبرع الشرعيه لتمكينه من الفوز برئاسة امريكا. لكن فوزينا بان اخانا وشقيقنا الافريقي الكيني الامريكي الجنسيه يطلع بتصريحات صدمت كل المؤيدين في العالم العربي وفي افريقيا في العالم الاسلامي. نحن نتمنى وربما تكون هكذا ان هي مجرد
Open your eyes to the truth, people. It's the only thing that's going to set us free.
ان كذبه انتخابيه بسبب محدث الانتخابات، ان الواحد يكذب على الناس لكي يعطوا اصواتها، وبعد ياتي التطبيق وينجح يقولون لا انت وعدت بكذا بكذا، يقولون لا هذه دعايه انتخابيه. شوفوا هذه الديمقراطيه، لا هذه دعايه انتخابيه، فاكرينها جد لكنها مضبوط نضحك عليكم يدخل اصواتكم. ان شاء الله هي تكون هكذا مجرد دعايه انتخابيه، لكن كونك هو يقول ان القدس ساعملها عاصمه الى الابد للاسرائيليين، هذا لا يدل على انه هو ان اخانا اوباما يجهل السياسه الدوليه وما هوش مطلع على ملف الصراع في الشرق الاوسط. كنا نعتقد انه يقول انا قررت اذا نجحت سوف افتش مفاعل ديمونه لاتاكد من القنابل الذريه ومن صحه الدمار الصوب الاخرى عند الاسرائيليين، لازم نتاكد منها ودير قرار مثل هذا. لكن لابد انه عندما فكر في هذا، لابد انه فكر عندما كان يتكلم عن ايران برنامجها النووي، لابد ان تكون امام ديمونه بكل تاكيد. لكن لما تكون قدامه ديمونه لابد ان يكون قدامه مصير سنته كندي الذي قرر ان يفتش مفاعل ديمونه واصر على تفتيش ليتاكد من انه يحصل اسلحه ذريه والا لا. ورفض الاسرائيليون، واخيرا أصر هو على التفتيش. كان المخرج من هذه الأزمة هو استقالة بن غوريون. استقال حتى لا يوافق على تفتيش مفاعل ديمونة، وأعطوا الضوء الأخضر بقتل كندي، وهكذا قتل كندي بسبب مفاعل ديمونة وإصراره على تفتيشه. بسبب إصراره على تفتيشه قتل كندي. لابد أن أوباما أمام هذه الصورة، وبالتالي لابد أنه كان يريد أن يتكلم على هذا ولكنه يتراجع. كنا نتوقع منه أن يقول أني سأطبق إذا نزعت فكرة الدولة الواحدة إسرائيل الموجودة في الكتاب الأبيض من جناتي، أن هذه الفكرة هي الفكرة اللي فيها الحل الجذري والتاريخي والنهائي، وأنه مستحيل إقامة دولتين حكوميتين في هذه المنطقة. أي دولة عمق 15 كيلومتر، لا يسمى بإسرائيل الآن عمق 15 كيلومتر، أي دولة هذه؟ أنا 5 ملايين من الفلسطينيين. كنا نتوقع أن يقول ملايين اللاجئين الفلسطينيين قررت أن أرجعهم لأرض فلسطين اللي تطردوا منها عام 48 وعام 67. هذا هو التغيير اللي اتفق له الشعوب ويريده الشعب الأمريكي والشعب الأسود في أمريكا. كنا نعتقد أن يقول أني أعمل من استقلال الأمة الكردية وتوحيدها، ولا بد أن تحتل في الشرق الأدنى مكانك تحت الشمس فوق الأرض. الأمة الكردية الممزقة المعذبة المضطهدة المستعمرة من الكل كان يجب يقف إلى جانبها، لا يقف مع العملاء ويضحي بمصير الأمة الكردية. هذا التغيير والخوف. كل الخوف هو ان هذا الكلام في وقت اقول ان الاسود يشعر بالنقص، عقدة النقص. هذا شيء خطير. اذا كان اخونا اوباما شعر بانه هو اسود وانه ليس له الحق في ان يحكم امريكا، هذه المصيبه الكبيره، لان هذا الشعور خطير جدا يجعله يتصرف ابيض اكثر من البيض، ويبالغ في اضطهاد السود واحتقاره. نحن نقول له يا اخي الاسود والابيض في امريكا مساويين، كلهم مهاجرين. امريكا ليست الا البيض ولا حتى ولا السود، امريكا الهنود الحمر سكانها مصريين. جاء الابيض وجاء الاسود، اذا الابيض والاسود في امريكا مساويين. ومن حق اوباما ان يرفع راسه يقول انا شريك في امريكا، امريكا ارضي مثل ما ارضكم انتم، اذا كان ليس ارضكم ليس ارضي حتى انتم ليس ارضكم، ارض الهنود الحمر. انتم مهاجرون نحن مهاجرون. لكن نظن نحن نامل ان الاسود هذا يكون معتز بافريقيته وباسلامه وبعقيدته، وانه صاحب حق في امريكا، وان يغير امريكا من الشر الى الخير، وان تقيم العلاقات اللي تخدم امريكا مع الشعوب الاخرى خاصه من العرب.
They say this man's a terrorist. People of America, when we gonna wake up and realize that we funding the real terrorists? It ain't this man.